What's up, YouTube? I wanted to make this video to talk about bullying. I was having this conversation with one of my cousins the other day, and we were going back and forth about bullying, and we were listening to Brock Lesnar talk about bullying on whatever fucking podcast he was on, and it made me want to make this video. I've always felt this. We had this mentality back in the day. First of all, I don't like bullies. I don't give a fuck about bullies. I'm not advocating for bullies or bullying. I never like bullies. I think they're cowards. They prey on... I don't like anybody that preys on people that are weaker than them. If you do that, you're a bully, and you can go fuck yourself. I don't really give a fuck about bullies. What I'm saying is, and I'm not even saying bullying wasn't bad, right? Because I grew up in the 90s. I remember a time period when bullying was like, they didn't really take it all that seriously. They just kind of like let you fend for yourself. Like if you got into a fight in the schoolyard, whatever happened outside, kind of like, they had the mentality of whatever happened off school grounds was your own business that had nothing to do with us. And then even to a certain extent on school grounds, I knew a couple of teachers that looked the other way when you get into a fight, especially if it wasn't that serious, and especially if you were defending yourself. They kind of just like let it slide. They pretended they didn't see it. There was a couple of teachers I know that were cool like that, and I got into fights in school, didn't get in trouble at all. So growing up back in the 90s, the 80s, even before, the 70s, bullying was just kind of like normal. That was just the way shit was. It's only in recent times that they started having like a no, like zero tolerance policy to any kind of bullying or aggression. And I don't think that's good. And I'll tell you why. They do this with the intention of protecting kids who are being bullied. But what you're doing is you're setting them up for failure. You're supposed to learn how to protect yourself on the schoolyard. Among other things, obviously you don't go to school to fight or to like get into some drama with other kids. But one of the things you learn from interacting with other kids, older kids, younger kids, kids your size, kids bigger than you, is, especially when you're on the playground playing, you're playing kickball, football, whatever the fuck you play. One of the things you learn is you learn how to defend yourself. You learn how to be tough. You learn how to interact with other groups of boys, especially as a young boy, where, you're going to grow to be a man one day. Fighting could be very serious for grown men and boys, but mostly for, the stakes are way higher once you get older. This mentality of protecting kids from being bullied, having a zero tolerance policy of bullying, it weakens the kid. Because what happens is, in a lot of schools and daycare centers and sports teams, if you get into a fight, everybody's going home. Like everybody's suspended, everybody's getting kicked out of school. They're not interested in listening to justice. Like they're not interested in who's right, who's wrong, who started it, who was the bully. They'll lock everybody up. They'll fucking throw everybody out. You know what I'm saying? And that's not good for the kid who's being bullied. Because number one, it'll make you think twice about defending yourself. Because the kid who's bullying you, obviously he got a problem. Maybe he don't give a fuck about going to jail, or maybe he don't give a fuck about getting kicked out of school, and you do. So you're more liable to let the kid bully you. So that's one reason why that's bad. I remember when I was a kid, I went to one school where, like I said, a lot of the teachers would look the other way. Mind you, this was the 90s when they kind of had more of a lax attitude with this type of shit. And then a couple of years later, I transferred to another school that was different. They had a zero tolerance policy of bullying. And then I would have issues with other kids trying to bully me. And then I would think twice of defending myself because I didn't want to get suspended. I don't want to get kicked out of school and get in trouble. So there was times where I could have defended myself, but I didn't. I just let them kind of like do whatever because I just didn't want to get in trouble. So this puts you in a position where you're getting used to letting people fucking walk all over you. The schoolyard is a great place to learn how to handle yourself against bullies because you're not always going to be under the protective bubble of the school system, the daycare center, your parents, or whatever the case is. That's going to protect you from bullies and that's going to stop other kids from bullying you. You got to grow up one day and you got to be a man. And the harsh reality of living life as a man is you got to stand up for yourself. Nobody gives a fuck about you. And you got bullies out here in the real world. From your boss, your coworkers, people on the street. You got criminals walking around with predatory type behavior. Girlfriends, wives, even like women could bully men too, and vice versa. Throughout your day-to-day life, you could encounter all types of people that are going to try to get over on you or try to take advantage of your kindness or of your passivity or your lack of aggression. And you deal with this when you're a kid in a schoolyard. The kid takes your ball, you go and you fucking take your ball back. You get into a fight, you learn toughness. It builds you up. It builds you to be tough, not to be a bully yourself, not that fighting solves, not that you're gonna come out here in the real world and solve all your problems with violence, but it teaches you how to handle people who solve problems with violence. Because those people are walking around everywhere, and they're adults. These are adults, and they're walking around everywhere. And as a young man who wants to live a normal life, you gotta learn how to fucking defend yourself against those types of predatory people. Because they think you solve problems with violence. And you learn this on the schoolyard. You learn this on the schoolyard where it's generally safe. Generally, people aren't pulling out knives and shooting each other on the schoolyard. You learn this. You learn how to throw your weight around. You learn how to be aggressive. You learn how to fight. You learn how to stand up for yourself. You learn how to push back against predatory behavior. You learn justice. You learn right from wrong. This all comes from kids bullying you and you pushing back. You also learn not to walk around like a victim. Because sometimes kids get bullied. I don't want to say kids get bullied for a reason, but definitely there are kids that are walking around being bullied because they look like a victim and people are picking on them. So this is where friends or older people come along and let you know, like, yo, the reason why little Timmy came over and punched you in your face is because you're doing this, this, and this. I remember I had a kid in my class. We'll call him Bobby, right? Bobby, I'm not saying he got bullied. He got bullied, and when I first met him, I kind of felt bad for him. But then after spending some time around Bobby, I started to see why they were bullying him. Bobby was like a little bitch. Like, Bobby would fucking, talk shit on people behind their back. He acted like a little girl. And you kind of agree, I didn't agree with the bullies, but you definitely didn't feel sorry for him. So it's shit like this. Like, this is where somebody takes Bobby aside and they go, Bobby, the reason why people are fucking with you, you're not really a victim. You're acting kind of like, you're kind of acting like an asshole here. You know what I'm saying? So this environment where you allow kids to fend for themselves to a certain degree and protect themselves on the schoolyard, they learn how to act. It balances everything out. It's really good for the kids that are being bullied, because what's going to happen is once they leave school and they're outside of the protective bubble of being protected from bullies in school, they get out into the real world and then they don't know how to protect themselves against real bullies. It's also good for the bully, because many times growing up, I saw a guy bullying somebody else and then he got punched in the mouth, either from the bully, either from the bullied kid, the kid he was bullying, or from somebody else protecting the kid that was being bullied. And he learns humility. He learns how to humble himself. He learned that there are ramifications for you acting like an asshole, that somebody much bigger than you will come and settle it for you. And they'll put you in your fucking place. So a lot of times when you get a kid who's acting predatory, who's never been put in this place because their mom ain't smacking them or they're not being disciplined at home, they learn that shit on the schoolyard. And this is good for everybody. But like I said, sometimes you get bullied because straight up, you deserve it. I remember one time back in the day, I was young, right? I was young. I was definitely too young to be getting smacked around by an adult that wasn't in my family. But I was hanging out with my friends. I was a loudmouth. I didn't respect, at the time, I respected my family and my parents, but for whatever reason during this incident, I didn't give a fuck that this guy was talking the shit he was talking. Long story short, he was riding his bike. He felt like me and my friends didn't get out of his way. He stopped and he was like, bro, what the fuck you doing? I'm gonna hit you. I turned around being the loudmouth that I was, and I said something to him that I learned later that you never say to a grown man. 3 little words that you absolutely don't say. It could escalate. It could take a situation that's not violent and turn it into an extremely violent situation around the wrong people. And I said these 3 little words to this guy. He got off his bike and he walked up to me. He was like, what the fuck did you just say to me? And me being an arrogant little kid, I didn't think he was gonna fucking do anything to me. I said it again. Or I tried to say it again. I told him, I said, suck my boom. He just fucking rocked me. I flew back, and this is the first time I ever got punched in the face. And unfortunately, it wasn't the last time. But it was a pivotal moment in my life because I learned, holy shit, it hurts to get punched in the face. And there are ramifications for running your mouth and being disrespectful. He hovered over me, pointed his finger in my face, started talking shit, but my ears were ringing, I didn't hear him. I was just fucking like, I was out of it. But I learned something very important that day. I learned a valuable fucking lesson that had I said that to the wrong guy, he might have shot me in the fucking head for that shit. So after that, when I felt the urge to run my mouth, I thought twice. I remembered that ringing in my ears that persisted for the next week. And I decided to step back and be like, you know what? Nah, let me fall all the way the fuck back. I was wrong. Let me not act like a fucking asshole. I remember back in the day, I grew up in the 90s, like I said, in the tail end of the era where it was okay for other people that weren't your parents, like your neighbors, friends of family that lived up the block, like 2 blocks away, to whoop your ass. Like, it was normal for the neighbors to come and whoop your ass. And then when your mom found out that you got your ass whooped by the neighbors because you were being stupid, she whooped your ass. And this kept everybody in line. You know what I'm saying? I remember my mom telling me when I was a kid, I remember her informing me of certain neighbors that had permission. She told me, she goes, you see him? He has permission to come and whoop your ass. And I would look at him and he would be like, that's right, and I'll do it too. And this kept me in line because I would ride my bike around the neighborhood, hang out with my friends, wondering who knew my mother and who has permission to whoop my ass. And it happened. Fast forward to today, that obviously is not the case. You'll get locked up for that shit. If you put your hands on somebody else's kid, you're going to jail. I think this is why there's all these kids that are acting disrespectful. You didn't really see that back in the day. Back in the day when it was normal for you to just whoop some kid's ass, you don't really see that now. Now you see kids get on a train, they're throwing shit, they're fucking attacking adults, and you absolutely cannot put your hands on kids. And I think that's wrong. I think to a certain degree, we need to go back to a time when you let kids fend for themselves on the schoolyard with bullies. You allowed your neighbors to come and like, you gave an adult a certain degree of autonomy with whooping the kid's ass that was acting crazy. And mind you, there are some bad parts of that too. Like, you know, you can't trust everybody. Certain people are crazy. But there definitely was a lot more respectful kids back in the day than there are now. Kids nowadays don't give a fuck. They don't give a fuck about nothing. And I think we need to go back to a time when that was okay. Because some kids are growing up, you know, they're then facing zero physical ramifications at home. Their mom's not doing shit. Daddy's not in the fucking picture. There's no ramifications on the schoolyard because it's a bully-free zone. They'll bully somebody and just get fucking sent home and suspended. That's what they wanted anyway, right? And nobody punches them in the face. Now they're just running around fucking amok, acting stupid. I'm not saying bullying is good. I'm not advocating for bullies. Like I said, fuck bullies. But having these zero tolerance policies to fighting and bullies is not helping the kids out. You're actually doing them harm. And we need to cut that shit out. Done.